It was a really exciting time. I've been a professional .NET developer for like 20 plus years. I've been shipping professional production scale desktop applications for the last 20 years, mobile applications across iOS and Android for the last 15 years. And I think back that it was an exciting time then because we got these supercomputers in our pockets. And I think about it now in 2026 as just as exciting, but happening way faster. Every single day, I get to wake up and I'm like, what am I gonna put in my mobile app today? What am I gonna put in my desktop app today? What am I gonna ship to my customers? What am I gonna ship to myself to make my applications more delightful, to make me more productive? And before I was limited because I was limited by the number of keystrokes I had in a specific day, or how many times I could assign work to John, who knew nothing about mobile development until this year, where he built and shipped his very first mobile application that was way better than anything I had built before. And I thought that was almost inappropriate, right? But it was kind of amazing because we're in this age that we can build anything and we can do anything and anyone can, but we have more tools than ever so we can actually take our craft and elevate it even further up. I think that's really unique, taking our craft, something that we've honed over the last 1, 5, 10, 20, 30 years, and make it even more special, more meaningful, more maintainable, ship features faster than ever, fix bugs faster than ever, focus on the problems that we really want to focus on every single day. I started one of my applications a few years ago during the pandemic, which is a cycling application called My Cadence. It's an application that connects to a little Bluetooth sensor on like a DIY Peloton that you can just get your cadence, how fast you're cycling indoors. And that application I built over a 2-week holiday break. And it was really amazing. I got to learn about Bluetooth. I got to learn about Bluetooth and then learn more about Bluetooth. Something I thought I'd never learn about, but it's so fascinating. And I built and I shipped this application. And at that point, I had been building and shipping, production apps for like, I guess at that time, maybe 8 or 9 years for iOS and Android with Xamarin and then .NET MAUI. So like I knew what I was doing and it still took me 2 weeks, a whole another week to get through the App Store process. And by the end of the holiday break, I was done. I sat down at the beginning of this holiday, so December, and I was done 2 days later. I had a whole nother production application and yet shipped to the App Store in the way that I build applications in my style. And every single day since then, I've been adding new features. For the first time, I think in my 15-year history of doing software development, I actually have emails from customers and people that have downloaded the app thanking me that are coming out with feature requests, and then I'm actually implementing them. Like when was the last time someone was like, hey, I have this great idea, and you're like, that is a great idea. And then you shipped it the next day. Like I'm doing that. And it adds instant value. And I see my downloads increase. I see my customer reviews increase every single day. And I see the in-app sales increase too, because I'm shipping delightful experiences and I'm iterating. I'm A/B testing faster than ever, which I think is really delightful. And it's not just me. It's the entire .NET team. It's the MAUI team. It's everyone, right? But we have so many tools in our toolbox. What do we add? When do we add it? Everyone's at a different part of their AI journey, and we're all on our AI journey. So what I want to do today is kind of break down and distill kind of not only has AI transformed the .NET MAUI team and how they're building .NET MAUI itself for cross-platform native development, but how you can take a lot of the things that the team built for themselves and put it into your software development process. Maybe a little bit, maybe a lot, maybe none, who knows, maybe all of it. We'll see. And what I'm going to talk about today is mostly around .NET MAUI, but a lot of the things I'm going to show are also going to apply to just normal .NET development. So you can see some of the things will apply there too. If you don't know who I am, I'm James. I work at Microsoft. I came from Xamarin. I was a customer of Xamarin, building professional mobile applications before that. And I've been doing this forever. I love it. And I've been talking about software development for mobile and desktop applications for the last 14 years. And this talk probably is the most I've ever scrutinized myself over and been worried about ever. I was up till like 1 in the morning, rehearsing over and over again. And even though I've talked about .NET MAUI and Xamarin before that, hundreds upon hundreds of times, everything is moving so fast and changing so fast that I'm still learning every single day and trying new things and seeing how to all the experiments and all the trials that the team are running are impacting my software development. So I'm pretty excited about it, and I think it's an amazing time, not just to be a software engineer in 2026, but to be a mobile developer, and hopefully if you're using .NET MAUI, a .NET MAUI developer too. So if you are brand new to .NET MAUI, I'm gonna do a quick 101, little like 3-minute spiel on just what .NET MAUI is, the different sort of use cases that the team has developed over the years based on your feedback. I'm gonna talk a little bit about AI's changing .NET MAUI and the team itself. And then we're gonna talk a little bit about 3 kind of unique things. If you're to break this talk into 3 things that you could take away, it's how AI agents and skills can be used automatically for software development with .NET MAUI, some brand new AI tools that the team is building that you can leverage and install today and take advantage of, and there's still hot bits coming out, but there's a lot of cool stuff. And then if you're looking to put AI into your applications, I'm gonna talk a little bit about that and what the team is doing in a cross-platform way to enable you to do that. So .NET MAUI itself, right, is a cross-platform native development platform. Enables you to build iOS, Android, Mac, and Windows applications, leveraging 100% shared code across the entire stack. Basically, the team brought C# and .NET to iOS, Android, and Mac, and then they built a layer on top of that to abstract away common controls, APIs, the .NET runtime, everything inside there. And what that means is that you get a bunch of stuff as a developer out of the box. And when you build and compile an application, you build and compile it into a native application that you ship into the App Store. And by default, out of the box, .NET MAUI apps use native controls. So a button is a button, a list view is a list view, a collection view is a collection view, and it renders natively on each platform to the native control. The team also recognized that there's lots of web developers that want to build mobile applications too. So they leveraged the technology and they built a Blazor web view. So you can take your Blazor controls and your Blazor web views and put them directly inside of a .NET MAUI application. You can mix and match UI controls and components. You still have access to .NET, to the native APIs of the different platforms, but the web UI is what is rendered at the end of the day. And they even took it a step further because they said, hey, well, if we have a web view and we can display web content, we could also display like React or Angular or anything else. So you can actually build all sorts of different types of hybrid applications with .NET MAUI, with Blazor, with just HTML, JavaScript, web frameworks, or you can go 100% native. You kind of have this full sort of access. You have like full reach of Blazor. You can put it on the web. You can kind of do anything with it. You have MAUI itself, like the core, just the real depth of the native platform. And then you have this sort of Blazor hybrid in between. And there are developers and customers all over the world building with .NET MAUI, with Blazor hybrid, with web views, building to what their team knows, what technology stack they've standardized on, and been able to build out awesome native integrations for their customers, for their company, across every single spectrum, whether it's finance, whether it's healthcare, and they're mixing and matching this with their .NET backends, their Azure backends, and leveraging the same technology everywhere. And we're doing the same here at Microsoft. A bunch of different Microsoft applications that you use every day are built with .NET MAUI, many of them with .NET. Our entire Copilot stack is powered by .NET. Here, Teams is powered by .NET. And every team uses different stacks based on their need, as should you too. So different teams finding different use cases. Now let's talk a little bit about actually how the team has changed. Because I think what's unique is, languages change, frameworks change, tools change. They've always changed, right? I think when I was in college, my instructor, Phil Miller, who was the only instructor that taught C#, it's the only reason I'm here today. I mean, maybe not the only reason, but one of the reasons I'm here today, as he taught a C# course, and I took it, and I fell in love with the programming language. But he said, you're never going to stop learning as a software engineer. That's why you're all here. You're here to learn. You're here to hopefully take some notes, take one thing away, one nugget of things that maybe James said today. And when we're learning, we're evolving. We're evolving our products, we're evolving our processes, and we're evolving how we work as a team, right? I remember when Agile came out, I became a Scrum Master. I thought that was so cool. I got certified, and then I never did that ever again. And then I was like, awesome, that's great. But I did it, I learned it, I know the process, right? If your team is like practicing Scrum and you're a Scrum Master, I could have that conversation with you, like, how's it working for you, right? I can understand how all those things are working. I can go in and see people that are using GitHub or Jira or Azure DevOps. I can understand their workflows, right? I thought that was so cool. Something I never thought I would geek out about is like swim lanes. Woo, you know? So the .NET MAUI team has been thinking over the last few years alongside the .NET team, how do we evolve, you know, as not just people that are building the languages and the frameworks, but people that use the tool. Like much of the .NET MAUI team build and ship applications as well. So they said, well, if we want to be competitive, right? If we want to, you know, practice what everyone else is out there talking about, we need to also do it ourselves. So they deeply integrated GitHub Copilot across the entire stack. I'm going to talk a little bit about what this means. Basically, they took GitHub Copilot and they started small. They started integrating it into simple bug fixes, assigning Copilot an issue. Then they said, what if we came out with a way to have it reproduce bugs and give a report back to us? And then what if we had it maybe write a failing test for us that we could then fix? What if we had it make the fixes? What if we had it review the changes? And then what if we could work with the AI to help us iterate on our own code that we were writing, rubber duck with it back and forth? And what this meant is that for every step of the software development lifecycle, from API design to shipping it, every single bit of that is touched by GitHub Copilot. It means that they can fix bugs faster, add new features faster, and they can do a whole bunch of experiments across the entire board. The entire team is really sort of an agentic end-to-end engineering team. And actually almost all the teams here on Microsoft are. And if they're not, they're on their journey. And every team's on their journey. Some teams are here, some teams are up here. I work with the GitHub Copilot app team. I contribute code. I don't know what the code is, but I contribute it. I review it. It's in there. I shipped some code today. I'm very excited about it. We'll launch some cool stuff at 9 o'clock, so it's going to be pretty rad. Real excited about it. But I got to ship features, right? I was able to pull down the GitHub Copilot app inside the GitHub Copilot app. It spun up an entire environment for me and had best practices on how the team works. And I was able to add features to a huge, ginormous application in under an hour and get it committed and pulled into the product by the end of the day. That blew my mind. I'm a software engineer, but my title does not say software engineer. I'm in advocacy, right? I am a developer relations, even though I am a developer. And I know the code. I can review the code. And we got the code reviewed, not only by me, by Evan, the team lead, and also by Copilot, right? And I continue to work on this process. So what does this mean for the .NET MAUI team, right? This is a team that's putting it in practice. Our teams are. It meant that they actually reduced their time per issue by up to 70%. What does that mean? It means that they can focus on actual, real, meaningful, deep issues, more features, right? And not have to dive through every single detail. And that time is not just fixing it, right? It's actually reproducing it. It's going through and refining the bug. I have an automation set up that when I get a new bug report, it kicks off an agentic workflow in GitHub and it says, refine this bug. Like how many great bug reports have you gotten from a customer? Like never. How about from a coworker? Very rarely, right? Those are gold. You keep those people, right? But you can have Copilot go in and refine it. They can understand the code base, try to reproduce it, go through and update that issue for you automatically. It meant that they increased the number of issues up to 3x. They increased test coverage, just a ridiculous amount, up to 95%, up from 60 on new PRs. It really lowered the barrier for community contribution. Could be good, could be bad, right? What are those contributions like? But at the end of the day, what they saw is that they had higher quality exploration, fixes, implementation inside of the product itself. And there's a great blog that David put out just from March this year, talking about how the team is accelerating. So if you want like a real use case from the team, it's there. And the curve is actually real. This is a cool website that the .NET team puts out. It's called agenticengineers.net. And it actually shows like the usage of AI from the different .NET teams. That's kind of cool. And what you see is these Copilot authored PRs, right? So this curve is visible. And you see a big spike at the end of last year when these models really started to refine themselves, be really powerful, right? You saw them trickle. But you also saw a mind change in teams across the world, really. I think a lot of people woke up from that holiday break in December, January, and it started to spike, right? Now, this is just really a signal because the whole goal here is to make sure that we're not just adding more features, fixing more bugs, is to make sure it's high quality at the end of the day. So I think that this is really, really neat. I'll reiterate again on this next slide, is that it's not just the .NET MAUI team that is participating in this. The .NET MAUI team itself is powered by the direct team members. It's also powered by the community, all of you that make contributions. And we have another partner, which is Syncfusion, which directly contributes to .NET MAUI, and they're part of this process too. And what we saw really is the exact same contribution flows from the Syncfusion developers. This is from that same vlog, the same statistics. But what we saw, and I think another stat that I put on here, is this 80% first-time fix rate, which means that at the end of the day, they're able to go in and brand new contributors are able to go in faster than ever and fix these bugs in a meaningful amount of time. And Syncfusion not only contributes to the code base, but they also contribute to the ecosystem, just like Telerik and DevExpress and these other companies. And they partner super close with the .NET MAUI team, and they actually ship the Syncfusion .NET Community Toolkit. It's a free set of tools. You actually do new .NET MAUI project and select the controls. It's a beautiful box there. And they've been able to add new features faster than ever by leveraging the same practices that the .NET MAUI team is. You can go into the .NET MAUI repo and you can see all of the custom instructions, all the agent work, all the workflows that the team that is building the product is using, and you can put it in your app. And teams across the spectrum that are contributing to this ecosystem are doing the same. The team over at Uno, they're doing the same deep investments in Skia Sharp. They've completely almost rewritten Skia Sharp, this rendering engine for .NET across the board, and they just shipped version 4.0. And the Avalonia team, right, we think is one big ecosystem, is actually bringing an entire Linux platform for .NET MAUI through the Avalonia control kit, which is like really, really neat. So there's all of these really awesome work that's going on that wouldn't have been done before, or just would have took way more time because the team is now accelerated by these AI best practices that they've instilled in themselves. Now, while AI is amazing, there's also some core fundamentals that are actually like really, really important, right? So the team, right, while they're fixing tons of bugs, adding a lot of new features, the team is also really focused on like the core developer experience. Like how does it ship in the box with .NET? What is that experience like for all of you? So one of the things that they actually did for .NET 10 is they fixed .NET Run. So before, to actually build and ship applications and get them started on different devices, it was kind of a pain for everybody. You either had to be in Visual Studio, VS Code, another IDE. You already had to memorize this super long command of .NET Build and Run and this thing and get a specifier. Now you can just go in, say .NET Run, and it will go ahead and show you all of the targets that are available on your machine. It will show you all of your Android emulators or iPhone simulators, or even start them if they're not started on your machine too, automatically, and boot them up for you. So you can just go in and run the application from any terminal. Now, this is also really important because AI agents are running tons of commands, right? So simplifying that workflow for them is also just as important. Now, the team is actively improving this even further in .NET 11 coming this fall by introducing support for .NET Watch. And .NET Watch is that hot reload, continuous editing out of the box without having to do a full debug compilation run cycle that we've seen before, very popular in Blazor, for example. So just like we saw with .NET Run, now in the latest release, preview 6, I want to say. Is that right, John? 6? 4? 6? 6, perfect. It ships out of the box with .NET Watch, so you can just go in, hot reload is enabled, go into any C# code file, XAML file, anything like that, and boom, it's good to go, right? This is deep, meaningful work that the team is putting in because we know that how we code and how we run and how we build applications needs to fundamentally change. We can't wait around for a minute, 2 minutes for builds and for debug deployment to go up because these agents are working side by side us. The other thing that I'll point out here that just happened in .NET 11 or coming in .NET 11 is a huge fundamental shift for .NET MAUI itself to the core CLR, the common language runtime. So for the first time out of the box, the default experience for running .NET MAUI applications will be on the core CLR, which replaces Mono for Android, iOS, and Mac Catalyst. So this means that there's one runtime end-to-end for the very first time. This has been a big experimental support, I think since .NET 8, I want to say, that the team has been iterating on. And what this actually drives to is smaller applications and faster applications out of the box for you. I highly recommend, if you are building with .NET MAUI today, to do some spikes with .NET 11, the latest builds. Just upgrade, maybe put in a branch, right? Just change a few .NET 10s to .NET 11s, and then actually go through the process of going through and building with this. And there's a great blog post on the progress. And if you go to the .NET blog, just go to the .NET MAUI sublog, and you'll see a bunch of these updates that the team has made. And they're actively benchmarking against all these really big applications there. And if you see anything and things feel a little bit off, then feel free to reach out, and we'd love to work directly with anyone that's like seeing anything funky as we turn this on by default. And this is probably one of the biggest fundamental shifts for .NET MAUI since .NET MAUI, I guess, which was a while ago. Cool. So it's a little bit of not just like how the team is changing, but what that has led to in some of these core fundamental changes, and how it's coming in is going to actually, impact all of us in this room. Well, let's talk a little bit now about AI agents and skills. So how many of you today are using any AI agents to do any software development at all? Doesn't matter which one, any of them. Cool. All of you will at some point. It's all going to happen. It's just part of the tools in your toolbox, right? Whether it's like code completion that we had like 4 or 5 years ago, just drop down. I was there. I always thought IntelliSense was magical, right? You're just like, oh, like a dot and then like stuff, what? And then IntelliCode, you're like, what? It like knows like what I want. Full line completion. That was crazy. And with these AI agents, no matter what you're using, they all have all these different capabilities, right? They all have all these capabilities that we have as humans, right? I have the ability to play golf bad, right? That's a skill that I have honed over the years, right? Just bad golf. Cycling, okay, right? I know how to turn my feet in a motion in which a bike goes forward. That is pretty awesome. And that brings me joy at the end of the day. Cooking, yeah, I'm pretty okay. Italian, what am I gonna do? So I have all these skills, right? And I pick and choose when I deploy some of those skills, but I'm learning new skills. And I think that's really fascinating about AI agents is that there's a bunch of stuff in the box. Like me as a human being, I have the skill that I can stand here, I can move my arms, I can speak, I can breathe. Like these are inherent skills that I have. You think of an AI agent inherently, it is able to have this corpus of data through the LLM. And then we expose skills and tools to it, to read a file, to write a file, to understand different best practices that we have. So there's AI agents and there's AI skills. And I'm going to first talk a little bit about skills. And skills are really important because there are things that we can teach agents to do about how we want to work or in our process. And agent skills are actually an open standard originally developed by Anthropic. And you can think of them like this. It was an evolution of how we were trying to teach AI agents how to do stuff. We had these instruction files, these big files or agents.md files. And it would say, hey, listen, I really want everything camel case or Pascal case or underscore, M underscore, whatever it is. And here's my C# best practices, and here's how to build and compile things. And that would get loaded up every single time. And they got really big over time. So the team said, well, at Anthropic, they said, well, what if we gave skills that were smaller, individual, that could be loaded on demand when a user wanted to do something? So a skill consists at minimum in some markdown file, because we all love markdowns, and it contains metadata, but it can also contain scripts and references and even assets, templates. It can have .NET scripts that it could execute. It could have sample code in it. It can have anything, really. And it loads on demand. So basically, when the agent boots up, it has the ability to scan a few different folders for skills and read little tiny pieces of metadata that describes what the agent does. Maybe it is like a code reviewer or accessibility. And then it says, when the user the description might be when the user is looking to add accessibility features, this will be able to do blah, 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 blah. And that just makes sure that the context stays really small. And then when the agent says, oh, the user wants to add some accessibility features to their Maui application. Oh, I see I have some skills. Is there an accessibility skill? There is. I'm going to understand and load that into my context. So it loads it only on demand. So for example, like you might say, oh, like review my pull request. The agent may discover maybe a code review skill that you have, right? That doesn't need to be loaded all the time because you're not reviewing your code all the time. It'll activate, it'll read the project structure, it will go through, do linting, execute, do a bunch of stuff automatically for you. And the team, the dotnet team itself, actually has developed a whole series of dotnet skills that you can bring into any AI agent, whether it's GitHub Copilot, VS Code, Visual Studio, or anywhere else, any AI agent that you're using, any agentic coding agent. Now, what's really cool here is that there is not just .NET skills, so there's like C# skills, there's diagnostic skills, there's tracing skills, there's MS Build skills, there's all these skills that you can load. So you're doing any .NET work, it's all there for you. But there's also a bunch of .NET MAUI skills. We're gonna take a look at those today. And there's a whole bunch of things just from like setup, but working with collections views, doing theming, doing accessibility, and a lot more. And the great part here is that these are all coming from the .NET and .NET MAUI team. Now, on top of that, the .NET MAUI team, unbeknownst to many people, actually ship a custom full agent for .NET MAUI. It actually ships inside the VS Code extension. And you can also bring it outside of it too, into other platforms. It's just a file. But agents out of the box, you see in maybe your code editor, you see like, agent, plan, autopilot, like all these different sort of things. But these custom agents are just basically big system prompts. And what a custom agent can do is basically customize the entire system prompt of how that agent works. So what the .NET MAUI team is, they built an out-of-the-box custom agent for .NET MAUI that helps with different guardrails for quality in your layouts, helps you promote MVVM best practices, helps with compiled bindings and best practices, accessibility, device validation, and it's all built in by default, which is really neat. And all you have to do is change from that agent up top just down to .NET MAUI with one click. And you load that all up on demand. So let's actually take a look here and see what this looks like in practice, okay? All right, so I am not there. I'm here. So I just have a brand new application. It's blank. So I just do .NET run. Over here, I can pick what I want. Let's just boot this up on Windows, and then I can run it. Now, I know I can hit like the debug button and do things like that, but I want to point out here that even though I'm inside of Visual Studio Code, I'm in a profile that does not have anything .NET MAUI at all. Right, so I have .NET installed, I have the workload installed, but let's just say I opened up this file, this project, I have nothing installed. I just did .NET run and it like just works. One that's kind of cool because the core fundamentals are there. So what this means is that I am now in an agent that knows nothing about .NET. I'm in an environment that knows nothing about .NET MAUI at all, which is quite cool. And I just load this application, I click, awesome. Okay, so let's build an application. I'm gonna go and over here. And this is what I'm gonna like focus on right down here, which is this main agent and the models that we're gonna use. I'm gonna use Luna. Okay, Luna is a small model. So in the GPT-6 family, there is GPT-6 Sol, which is very big, expensive, awesome model. Terra, medium-sized model. Sol, very small model. Okay, so what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna give it a prompt here. I guess I can spell Atlas, right? And this is what it's gonna say. It's gonna say, hey, let's create a monkey atlas with the main page that's a collection view of the monkeys. And also I can click on one and go to details, make it look nice. That's, I think that's how we end all of our prompts. Make it look nice. So this is my monkey JSON file, which I've demoed like a bajillion times. And back in the day when I would go off and, do a bunch of stuff, I would go and write a bunch of code by hand. But now I'm just gonna go fire it off and let it cook. So the reason I picked a small model is because I want to show out of the box the experience that we get with some of these models that are really cost efficient. And then what I want to do is show the same exact model, but I'm going to juice it up with all of that agent skills, .NET MAUI stuff, the custom agent that we talked about before. So here, it's going to go, it fetched automatically. This is a tool in its toolbox right here. Now this is a newer model, so it's actually considering a bunch of information here, which is good. It's going to start implementing the monkey data and UI, and hopefully if we go over here, it created all the stuff. Now, most likely, it's going to know and understand how to actually build this application because how you've built and deployed .NET MAUI applications hasn't necessarily changed, which is great. However, it's probably not going to use like the new .NET Run and new .NET Build stuff, but it should hopefully like still be able to build projects out of the box. And these agent loops are there. There you go. So you're running .NET Build. Cool. Let's see if it does it. That's pretty generic build. And again, that's because this is just a file new project, and I have nothing in it at all. Cool. So it should know here to build. And this is a really good experiment because, in general, it's doing a little bit of guessing. So it's just doing a generic .NET build over here. And we can see that it's going to go ahead and build. We can see it actually has an error here, so it failed with 4 errors. The cool part about agents in general is that they'll self-analyze, self-correct. So it should go ahead and go through and start re-verifying, fixing itself, and then hopefully we should get something that works. And let's see here. I'm very much zoomed in, so it is quite large. There we go. So it looks like things are succeeding. That is very good. I love that. Then it's going to go ahead and build our Android stuff. Now, if we see what it actually generated, let's take a look here. I'm going to go ahead and keep all, blindly trust it. And if we take a look at the modified files, we can see that I do have, that's actually pretty good. I do have a little bit of some singletons here, an HTTP client, some detailed pages. I have a monkey, that looks cool. I have a monkey service, very generic, no guardrails. I love that for us. And it's just going to go and get the monkeys. And then if we take a look at our shell, nothing really special there. Our code behind it did do page routing. That's pretty good, impressive over there. And then if we look at our monkey details page, it looks like we're using a scroll view, a vertical stack layout for our detailed information. That looks good. And our main page here, we hopefully have a grid. Let's see what it did. Yep, we have a nice border on top with some colors. And then we have a grid with the collection, tap the card to discover, and then a refresh view and a collection view. So not too bad. That's pretty cool. And let's see if we're able to build it up. Cool. It actually told us what we did. So here's my outline. We have the GitHub JSON endpoint, monkey images. Perfect. That's great. Cool. And that cost, they changed the UI. I ran this yesterday, it was like 13 cents. So probably 20 cents. So it's good. Okay, let's go ahead and run this puppy. So I'm going to go over here and let's just see what it looks like. And .NET Run and boot it up. Cool. All right. Actually, it's not bad, right? Like it's pretty, not the worst. That didn't work. Perfect. So small model. Obviously didn't do some navigation here to actually pass said monkey over here. So that's kind of interesting. Did yesterday. Again, model's non-deterministic, but we actually have something that would have taken me a little bit of time, some rounded corners, not bad. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna undo all of that amazing work that Luna did. Boop. Because who cares? Cool, and now we're back. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch my profile in VS Code to my .NET MAUI profile. And the main difference here is that if I look at my installed extensions, I have the .NET MAUI extension installed, the C# dev kit, all the stuff basically is in there, which is super great. Now I YOLO pre-release mode because that's just me. I like all this stuff fast and hot, but all this stuff is also in just the normal release there too. So the very first thing that we're going to see down over here is that when I switched to this mode, a few things changed. Is that I still have my agent, ask, and plan, but I also now have this MAUI one. I also have a WinUI agent, and that comes from the WinUI CLI. So if you install the Windows UI CLI and you're doing WinUI work, which I do often, there's a custom agent that gets shipped out of the box, and that's just like global on my machine. And I have this .NET MAUI agent. Let's go ahead and see what's in there, because I think that's what's important. Is over here, if I go and tap on the MAUI agent, I can actually just click on this view, and we can take a look at it, because why not? So here, this says this is support development of .NET MAUI cross-platform apps, and what it does is it is basically a .NET MAUI coding expert. It tells us here things to never use, right? So things that we may often do is accidentally use list view or table view because they are obsolete. They're going to be deleted. Never put a scroll view and collection view inside of a stack layout. And then it shows us, never use low contrast colors, assume colors, from the code. And then this is big. So this gets loaded up. We have success criteria, .NET build is not completion, launch fails with a build error. Here's what you can run, when to debug a session if it's already active, control references, right? Basically what the team did is out of the box, they shipped a bunch of best practices coming from documentation that the agent doesn't need to look up. The agent now has all of this knowledge automatically, right? How to set tab icons, when to use conditional compilation, when to do different performance intelligent things here like AOT trimming and X data type that's in here. Now this is just a markdown file, so you could copy it over here and you could bring it over to, let's say, Visual Studio 2026. You could come over here. I have an extension from MADS installed. It's called the .github and MCP extension. It's beautiful and lovely, and you should totally get it. And if you go over here, you get this GitHub node. And when you get that, you're able to go in and add agent files, like a custom agent. You can have prompt files, agent skills, Copilot instructions. You can add specific GitHub things like workflows, issue templates, code unders funding inside of here. You can also open on GitHub. You can manage your MCP servers, all sorts of good stuff. #1 extension ever. Everyone should have it. It's great. There. So this is really good, right? So here's security, best practices, all the things that maybe we've learned over time that we don't want to teach these models again, right? So that's in the box, and it's going to be there automatically when I do this here. Now, the other thing we want to do is load up a bunch of skills. So I went over to github.com/.net/skills, and this is where all of the skills live. And again, these skills can work in any agent, any development tool, things like that. If you go into plugins, we can see that there are a bunch of .NET skills. So if you're an ASP.NET Core developer, a Blazor developer, if you have a bunch of doing a bunch of AI development, or just core .NET work, a bunch of good stuff is here. Like there's all stuff for like data. So here there's a bunch of skills. And we can see we have data-driven ASP.NET Core, optimizing EF Core queries, which is really cool. There's advanced .NET stuff in these skills folders. And we have like C# scripts, pinvoke, NuGet trusted publishing, a bunch of things in here. And in the .NET MAUI folder, which I love, are a bunch of skills, and they're really good. We have this thing called MAUI Doctor, which actually helps diagnose our system. We have lifecycle events, collection view, data binding, dependency injection, safe area, shell navigation, theming, and a lot more, which is really, really cool. So I can go, and I'm going to go into VS Code. You can do this in Visual Studio too. I'm going to go in to this little gear, which is open customizations. This is going to show you all of your custom agents. So you can actually just click on this and see the MAUI agent. And you can see like the WinUI one here. This is the WinUI one. And the cool part about the MAUI one is it gets updated with the extension automatically. That's kind of cool. I'm going to go over to plugins. Well, actually, if I go into skills and if I type in MAUI, today there's actually two. These ship with the extension. There's a generic skill for MAUI development that basically gives an overview of how every single control works, very lightweight. And then there's also troubleshooting. So for some instance, it runs into an error, a build error, a crash. It'll actually load this skill to verify things. Those are just in the box, which is quite nice, which is cool. And then If I go into plugins, I can install a plugin from source, which is just a GitHub page. github.com/.net/skills. Boom. And this is going to load up all of those folders for me. And I can pick and choose. I can do like all of them if I want to, but I'm just going to pick just the MAUI one. Boop. And now if I go over to my skills and I type in MAUI, we can see that I have all those same skills. So collection view, data binding, dependency injection, safe area, theming, all these things that are built in out of the box. So now I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to say, what .NET MAUI skills do you have? Question mark. And I'm going to change this agent to the MAUI agent, just like that. And we're still going to be on Luna here. So using a very cheap, small model, fast model. Perfect. So this says, here's what I know how to do. General MAUI development, data binding, collection view stuff, shell navigation. We basically just taught it in 5 seconds how to do a bunch of stuff, including like UI testing, live verification, event diagnostics, and a lot more. So for example, I could run now with the / command, MAUI, and these are all the MAUI things. So for example, if you were doing deep work with collection views, I could say .NET MAUI, MAUI collection view. I want to focus on this collection view optimizations. What am I going to do? I'm going to do this one skill. So I can load it programmatically too. So I could do MAUI, and then I could say run the MAUI diagnostics, right? The MAUI doctor. What does that look like out of the box? So I'm going to run the same prompt over here, just like this. Now I'm going to nudge it though. Every model's a little bit different. Some of these smaller models, sometimes we'll look at some skills, sometimes don't look at any skills, right? We didn't have any skills before, now we do. So I'm going to say, also, let's make sure we use skills we have like data binding, collection view, theming, the stuff you just said. Right? And in fact, it's in the context, right? The context is there, so it should know. And I'm just going to go ahead and let it rip. Now, this is the same exact prompt. And the thing I want to point out here is that it's telling me here, and this is coming from the actual thing that, hey, make sure you're using the MAUI agent. And in fact, it would switch the agent automatically there. And then it's reading all these skills. So these things are going by really quick, but it's reading a skill, automatically collection view, data binding, theming in here. It's reading my agents file. It's reading the shell navigation skill automatically, and it's loading those all up. Things are flying by pretty quick, so I'm going to try to scroll back up here. But basically what it did is it just loaded all of those into its context for this session and for this chat, and it's going to go ahead and get to work. Now it's doing some deep planning here. It's looking at standard MVVM practices. It's designing the form, considering implementation. Should it use a VM? What should it? And then it's going to go through, and as soon as it's stuff for us automatically, I can see it's already creating view models for me because it is put it in a folder. Beautiful. All right, this is cool. It looks like it's brought in the community toolkit. We'll see if it's able to install the community toolkit. Fingers crossed. And it's doing observable properties and relay commands for me. I mean, just the code quality that we just enhanced in literally 1 to 2 minutes by using the custom agent, by using these skills, this is code that I would write. And in fact, if I probably looked at my .NET MAUI workshop that I've had forever, this is probably like almost nearly identical to like what the code would look like. It's crazy. So it's now going through and has the details. So it has the monkey here. It's doing dependency injection of said monkey, which is great. Let's see. Looks like we're still on Hello World, so it's creating stuff still. So we'll still let it cook here, hopefully. And we can look at that details page over here. So again, we're just kind of going through. We see automatically now it's using light theme, dark themes for us. Looks like it created its own theme, which is very nice. And this hopefully will probably look relatively similar, but we'll see what it ends up doing at the end of the day. I don't know what it's preparing, something. I did say I wanted to do it live, so why not? There we go. Whew. Sometimes it's just got to think. We all just need a little time to think. I was telling you we were testing a new model, and I was like, it says it's thinking. It's been thinking for like 30 seconds. That seems like an inappropriate amount of time. And I was like, I think it's stuck. And I told the team, I think it's stuck. I think it's stuck. I think it's stuck. And they're like, but like, is it animating? And I go, yeah, it's animating. But I'm like, it's taking too long. I was like, oh, it did something. And then like, I went for like a minute. I was thinking again. I was like, why is it reasoning? Why is it doing stuff? It's like, just give it some time, James. Like, you're so angsty and you want it right now. I said, I want it right now. Sometimes the mouse got to think. So let's see. So here it looks like, so what's nice about this, because it has these skills, it looks like it created the main page. It's addressing some UI issues that are here for duplicated headers. It's going to handle the tap event for us and hopefully grind away. It looks like it's on almost the last page, and then hopefully it should build. It is almost 9 o'clock. We're about to do a bunch of things, so I'm a little worried about what's happening in our back end. So, but it worked at 1 in the morning, so it should work just fine. And or everybody's coming into the office right now. There's also that. So let's see. And that's why they added this nice little animation. So you're like, it's okay, James. It's totally happening. It's totally happening. It's okay. Yeah, question while we wait. That's a great question. I don't know if there's any in the in the Blazor folder. I mean, the one thing I would say is that probably quite a few of like the Blazor skills would also just apply. I'll have to ask the team about Blazor specific ones because that would be pretty nice because there's obviously some correlation things that you need to do. But yeah, good question. I don't think there are any there yet, but I'm sure they'll add some. That'd be good. Yeah, question over there while it builds out. That's a great question. So skills, like how do we, skills, agents, markdown files, how do we maintain them? I think there's things, and this is evolving, I would say just like any tool's evolved. I think what we saw very early on is that we were copying and pasting around files a whole bunch. And I think that's not something that we want to do forever. So I think one of the big advantages that I'm kind of showing off here, first and foremost, is that a lot of these custom agents and these skills update automatically as those plugins and the plugin marketplace updates, and also when the extension updates, right? So you get to choose which ones that are there as the team updates them automatically. So that's really nice. Now, of course, you have the option to put the markdown files inside of your repo, just like you might put documentation. And then at that point, it's just kind of, it's what you used to do, right? If you used to put docs, someone has to maintain the docs, right? At the end of the day. So I think that is what's there. But I do think we're kind of seeing that evolve quite a bit over time. And I think we'll see more and more evolution of versioning and things like that. We're already starting to see quite a bit of that there. Now, the one thing with these skills that I'll say is that I didn't check those skills into my folder here. They're not here. They're on my machine. So they're global for me. So I picked what I want. Now I can install them into my project if I want to and have them in my repo, but then I maintain them as a team. So yeah. So more likely what I'm hoping is over time, we maintain more like our team's best practices, and then these skills are more maintained from a very like high level, like how the plugin architecture system works, basically. Yeah. Okay, let me try to run it again. Whew. It took longer than I wanted, but it did it. Again, I'm just assuming everything is flawless code. Beautiful. Oh, there's 13 monkeys. Okay, cool. So we have this here. We have our baboon. It actually navigates correctly. Beautiful. It's actually not that different. Now the code though, well, let me see if I have like dark mode. There we go. Let's see. Let's see if this works. Ah, beautiful. I don't think it did it before because there was hard-coded stuff before. So now we get beautiful light and dark monkeys. That's exactly what you want. And Sebastian, who is right there, is right here. Oh my gosh. Beautiful. Now, I would say the difference here is the code that was generated at the end of the day. We actually saw like 7 files being generated before. Now we're seeing about 15. We're using proper MVVM structures. We're seeing proper data binding, proper navigation. It actually works. That's good. I'd say here, I didn't tell it HTTP best practices, so it's still YOLO'd, and I like that. But we have a bunch of things that are inside of here, and it's using the community toolkit automatically. So using a lot of these MVVM best practices, which is like super awesome to see. So I really, really like that. across the board, and we can just blindly accept all of that, which is great. So I love that for us. A lot of dependency injection, things being pulled in, navigation, loading up the monkeys. Very cool. So a little before and after there. And it's not necessarily that it looks 100% different, even though it does. It's about that code and that quality that's generated. Okay, let's talk a little bit about actually these tools. Because right now, I've been using a lot of VS Code and Visual Studio, but the team has been thinking about the next generation of AI development tools for .NET MAUI developers. And they built it into basically 3 different things: CLI, an MCP server, and a desktop app. And the first thing is actually a brand new .NET MAUI CLI itself. Just like we have the .NET CLI that knows about .NET, now we have a .NET MAUI CLI that knows about .NET MAUI itself. It's a pre-release today, but it's an install a global tool. And what this enables you to do, and what your agent to do, is a whole bunch of stuff. There's built-in ways of doing diagnostics and fixing your machine. Before, to install and get .NET MAUI and JDK and Xcode and all this stuff used to take hours. Now you can run MAUI Doctor, and it'll install everything for you automatically, Android SDKs, everything. You can get your devices, you can install Android SDKs, you can create emulators, you can start emulators, you can do the same thing for Apple. And there's this amazing thing called DevFlow, which I'll talk about, which is built into the CLI, which is for .NET MAUI testing, automation, and debugging. It's a full toolkit that's powered by the CLI, has a built-in HTTP agent and an MCP server that we can expose to our agents. And DevFlow is sort of the next generation of doing .NET MAUI development. It's available today. And what that's enable us to do is visual tree inspection, element automation. It can work directly with Blazor Hybrid and WebView debugging, can access network, profiling, file storage, and tons more. It's basically 3 different components packaged up into the CLI and into an MCP server. Basically, we have an agent that runs inside of your application, and this exposes, basically through HTTP and JSON API, visual tree interactions, screenshotting, performance profiling, tons more. There's a broker that runs on your machine that basically communicates back and forth between your application and any tool that connects to it. And then the CLI, that is sort of the primary command surface that gives it basically 50+ commands to do anything in your application, which is really, really cool. And on top of that, so we actually just see what this looks like. So I'm going to come over, and I'm going to use a different app over here. And I've been building this app for a while, which is called the Simple Hybrid app, even though it's just a normal app at the end of the day. And I'm going to spend a lot of time over here in the terminal. And the CLI is pretty cool. And if you haven't installed it, basically I created a bunch of PowerShell scripts to kind of just show this off. But all this does is basically called install. But if I wanted to run some of the Doctor tools, there are a few built in. So running MAUI Doctor, checking the Android SDK, listing Xcode installations, and a lot more. So for example, I'm going to go ahead over here, and I'm just going to do ./o1 Doctor. And what this is going to run is basically I've created my own interactive way of showing the CLI with a CLI. So I'm going to run MAUI Doctor. And what this is doing is it's running one command, MAUI Doctor. So if I just actually came here and I ran MAUI Doctor, it would do the same exact thing, basically, here. So if I run MAUI Doctor, it did a bunch of things. It checked that I have .NET installed. It checked that I have the workload installed. It has the JDK, Android SDKs, licenses, ADB, emulators, Windows SDK. It's good to go. And if I wasn't set up, it would walk me through installing any of that for me automatically, which is really cool. I also can check that I have the Android SDK and where do I have it. If you've ever wondered where it is, you can just run MAUI Android SDK check. It'll tell you there it is. I can also check my JDK. What do I have installed? 21. Here's where it lives. You don't need to guess for it. You can just run a simple command. I can also, if I was on my Mac, I had also run Xcode installations too. I can also run basically a nice little helper script here, which is MAUI project show. This is really nice in automations that you might have set up and CI verifications, like what version of Maui is my project actually running at this time. You point it at a project file and it'll report back the effective package version. Now that's important because if you just are using Maui, you're not pinning a version, it might be different. So sometimes one developer might have a certain flavor of .NET installed, maybe a preview version like I do, and it's like, what is my app running today when it is sort of this generic thing? Now, more importantly, though, I can go through and I can start up devices. So here I could go ahead and say, show me my listed devices. And here I have one Android emulator. It's not started yet, so let's start it. I'm going to do Android. I can create one. I'm going to start an Android emulator. And here I'm just going to give it the name, just like this. Boop. And it's going to go ahead and start it up for me automatically on my machine, which is super duper cool. It's going to be off screen for some reason, but it's there, right? Now, the cool part about this is now that it's started, right? Any different agent, any platform can actually start these things without needing anything. Like I don't need any special environment set up at all. So I can start that up. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and run the application. So I'm just going to do /04 and run the app. This is doing nothing special. So all this is doing is going and just doing a .NET run basically on this. This froze earlier, so I'm going to see if it does it or not. Let's try it again. There we go. So all this did was just did a .NET run, specified the project, and then I was running it on Android just automatically. So that's nothing super duper special. And then we get the app running. So I built this calculator app, which is a cool little application. That's a calculator. And I built it like a bunch of different ways. I built it with Angular, I built it with Blazor, I built it with .NET, I built it with all these things. And I've extended it. We're going to use it for the next 15 minutes here. Okay, cool. So I just loaded it up. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and discover agents. So I mentioned that when I started this project up, it started this thing called devflow. And inside of here, I've installed a NuGet package, which is down here, which is the Maui devflow agent. And when I did that, I said, when I run my application down here, simply start the devflow agent. So it's going to run just on my local machine here when I boot it up. Now, what that's going to enable us to do is a few things. The first thing is I've created this kind of interactive walkthrough where the first thing we're going to do is make sure that the agent is running. We're going to discover any apps. We're going to inspect the visual tree. We're going to locate one of the elements, and then we're going to start to interact with it. So I'm going to go ahead and pin this. I can find a sheet. There we go. Perfect. Put this over here. Great. Make this a little bit bigger. And I'm going to go ahead and tap that. Okay. So it looks like it has found my Android emulator. That's good. There we go. So it says it's Android. It has the version of the runtime it's doing. Now I'm going to ask it next to list the visual tree. So it's going to dump out the visual tree. So this is every UI element, the first 10 automatically. So again, the AI agent can like look at this now. And then I'm going to go and tap again, and I'm just going to ask it for the very first display element, which is 0, which it's finding here on the screen. So each of these commands here, if I look at it, was running Maui devflow UI tree, give me 4 depth. And this one was running Maui devflow UI query for the first automation ID of display label. And then I can interact. So here, I can go ahead and say Maui devflow UI tap button 5, and then it goes ahead and taps it. And if I do it again, this is going to go ahead and do Maui devflow UI screenshot and take a screenshot. And now inside my project here, I have a full screenshot of my running application, right? So I have all these commands readily available to us, which is really, really cool. Now I have a few other ones that are a little bit more impressive. So for example, let's say you're automating and you say, I want to run this automation every single time. So here I'm going to do a little calculator. I'm going to say run clear, do this button 2, hit add, button 3, equals, right? I'm going to do /06, calculate. And this is just going to go through and then start to just automatically tap through our events for us automatically, which is really, really cool. I can do full navigation. So over here, for example, I have like, go to the history page. And here, what I'm able to do is have different taps and queries and take screenshots along the way. So if I do 07 history, it's now going to navigate basically through the history page, verify it, take a screenshot for me. So I can have this visual implementation along the way. Now, on top of all of this, what's really neat is that you can also start up an MCP server. So if I actually go over here and say Maui Devflow MCP, it's going to start an MCP server that any agent can talk to. So I'm going to do 08 MCP, and it's going to start it up on our machine. Now, if I go back over to the agent that we had earlier over here, I want to point out a few things. I want to point out that if I go up to my tools, that I have all of these Maui tools, and these are coming from the MCP server that ships with the extension automatically. So it knows how to communicate with it. So I can check connectivity, device display, device information, list files, focus, do anything that I just did basically, but through the AI agent, which is really cool. So I'm going to say, hey, I have the Android app running in Devflow. Can you test the calculator functionality for me and also do a divide by 0 to make sure it is accurate? Cool. So now, I'm going to pin this back over here. What's neat about this, make this bigger, is that I'm using these different tools. It's making sure that the agent is alive. So here, it's going to make sure that I have the agent available. And it's basically running those commands, and it sees Android. It's going to take a look at the tree, very similar. So now the agent knows about the tree, which is really cool. And then it's going to list actions that I have. So these are all the actions that it can do inside of it, which is really neat. So the agent is connected. It's currently on history. It knows about the app, right? It can go through and it can go ahead and start navigating inside of here. So I'm just going to do one by one. So it's going to navigate around. It's going to clear the history. I'm going to go ahead and YOLO this puppy, or else I'm just going to click allow, allow, allow over and over again. But now it's going to go through. It's showing what's the calculator. It's showing that it shows 0. It's reading the contents of it. And it says that it found an existing history. It's going to retest everything. It looks like the controls have stable IDs. It's querying the application, right? And then it's going to go ahead and boot this up. And here it's going to start with 12 plus 7. Boom, right? Now this is really cool because you can say, hey, I want to implement a new, I don't know, crazy math function, blah, blah, blah. Implement it, then test it. It'll boot up the application, test the functionality, report back to it automatically in real time, asserting, doing batch commands for us, interacting in real time. If you've ever done anything with Playwright, for example, for web automation testing, very similar, but now natively for your Maui applications, and it's testing every single thing that I wanted it to do across the wire. So I'm going to start something else here. Start the Windows app and test light and dark theme for me. Let's see if that works. Okay. So now hopefully, because this knows that it's going to switch the Maui debug target to window, it should go ahead and start the application up. Let's see if it's able to do it. Sometimes it gets a little confused on the Windows one, but let's see. Boot up my, when in doubt, I can always tell it manually to go over to, oh, there we go, Windows, local machine, and run it. Okay, I ran it. Oops, oops, what did I do? Okay, run it. Oh, local machine. Should be starting. And hopefully this boots up my Windows app. Boop, 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 boop. Or I could be building it like 20 times. That could be good too. We'll see. Let's see if it does it. All right. No, did something. Okay. Looks like something did it. I think I ran it twice. So let's see if that actually booted up. Let's see. Live, empty target list, only the picker. Cool. All right. So it looks like here now it's going to run those same commands. It actually took screenshots of the application. So I can like see that the agent is aware of it, which is great. And we can see we have some sizing issues here. It can actually resize the window for me automatically. It's going to go ahead and get the theme, set the theme for me automatically inside this running application. All right. Let's see. Probably just set it to light, so I should probably do it. And then it's going to run these same evaluations as well. And we can see it's also looking that there's logical bounding issues, and then it can make code changes automatically for me along the way, right? So being able to have this loop, it said light theme values show inconsistent. That's good, thanks. But you made a terrible app, I appreciate that. It's good. But it passes basic contrast, and then boom, it changed it to dark theme, and now it's checking accessibility on dark theme automatically for me, right? So super duper powerful to be able to get this into the box, which is cool. Now, there is one more thing that I want to kind of talk about here, which is another tool that the team built, which is called MAUI Sherpa. And MAUI Sherpa basically is an example of how you can extend your .NET MAUI platform automatically with a beautiful UI. Because while I love the CLI, it's great, I also love a GUI as well. So the Sherpa application allows you to manage all of this directly from a desktop application, like I just showed. It also enables deep integration and also a live app inspector from any tool, anywhere that you're at. So if I go over here, I've installed this. If I boot up the MAUI Sherpa application here, this is booted up. And I can go in and I can look at any devices I have plugged in, any, hopefully, emulators that's working. Let's see. Oh, there's my SDK, my phone that started up there. That's there. I can look at all the SDK packages that are coming in. If it's going to work today. There we go. So there's all the SDK packages for Android. I could store key stores. I can run the MAUI doctor directly from here, which is really cool. And then it's going to check all those environments. It's going to check Android SDK. It's going to do everything for me and report back. And then I get a full walkthrough of everything from .NET, from workloads, dependencies, things that I might want to fix up with a nice UI. I can do profiling from the application. That one is broken right now. Sorry, I forget. There. But we also have built in here this app inspector. And the app inspector allows us to automatically connect and visualize the entire application. So if you're coming from like Visual Studio 2026 and you're like, where's all my visualization? You can actually tap, get a full visual stack, change things, look at networking, profiling, web views, device logs, and a lot more, all from one place, which is really, really neat, which is awesome. Oh, wow, I have like 5 minutes left, so that's great. Cool. On top of this, the team is actually looking to bring this to more places. So the team just started work on actually bringing this outside of MAUI DevFlow and actually bringing it right into the browser. So for example, here, this is what the team is working on. No one's seen this. I just saw it 2 days ago. But the next iteration of this is going to be a DevFlow inspector that runs anywhere, including just in the browser locally that you can boot up, get a visual tree, take screenshots, record the footage of it automatically, which is pretty cool. And then on top of that, the team is also bringing it directly into VS Code. So we can see here the team is looking at how they can specifically bring the same exact functionality into a VS Code tab there. And then finally, if you are using the Copilot app, they've also built a canvas, which enables you to work directly in the GitHub Copilot app with a full interactive canvas with the Maui inspector all right there too, which is very cool. All right, I'm going to show one last thing here, which is around AI into your applications. Built into .NET MAUI itself is a bunch of things called MAUI Essentials, which gives you connectivity, device information, a bunch more. And the team has been looking at that for AI, specifically local AI, but also connecting to cloud platforms. And the team has started today with a preview of Apple Intelligence on macOS and iOS, abstracting out chats, embedding generation, text-to-speech, speech-to-text, and a lot more. And their goal is to flesh this out, basically, to enable you to connect to cloud, local devices for all the different platforms, and based on their runtimes. And the team's working actively on Android currently for this, to give you a single API surface. This is an example from David on the team that integrated into his coffee application voice to text, and then was able to additionally take a photo. This is one that he did at a conference, which is kind of cool, asking it how many cups of coffee they needs to make for these folks, and then sent this over into Apple Intelligence to actually analyze all of these things back. And you can combine these different pieces of functionality. So it says it needs about 18 cups of coffee, which is really cool. And you can even extend these with custom tools along the way. So I'll show that really, really quick in 1 minute here. So let's do that. I'm going to go over to my Mac here. And in this application, which I should hopefully have, if it shows up, let's see. If it doesn't, then that's okay too, because I have 1 minute left. All right, cool. All right. So here, I also wanted to show off, first and foremost, the Sherpa application that we have here. So the same exact thing, all my emulators. I can look at Xcode management, for example, here, devices and simulators. I have my iPhone plugged in. It shows me registered devices, bundle IDs, certificates, provisioning profiles. I can test push notifications. And I also have that same exact MAUI dev flow experience here on my Mac, which is really cool, which is awesome. Another thing I wanted to show off here was, I'm going to run the app here on Mac Catalyst. And what I have is a very simple service. So I have my system prompt all about being a math buddy, a math tutor. And what this does is exposes a few different tools to help explain math to students. And here, this is going to use Apple Intelligence on my Mac. And what it's going to do is create this chat client and specifically expose some tools that I gave it here. And all this does is create a chat client, so an iChat client, which is coming from Microsoft Extensions AI. It goes through and it makes sure that it's available. And what it will do is set that system prompt that I showed earlier here, this big one about being a math tutor, what it needs to be, what it needs to do. And then what it will do is it will stream in the response. So it's going to say, get response for this message, and explain whatever it is. So I can go into this application, which may look a little small. If I do 5 divided by 0 and hit enter, I can then do explain. This is now going to call into Apple Intelligence on my Mac and go and try to explain this math error that's going on here. Now, this is an M1 Mac, so it's not necessarily the fastest Mac at the end of the day, and with 16 gigs of RAM, it can do stuff. But now it's going to go locally on my device and go through and analyze this error for me without calling any backend at all, which is kind of cool. And hopefully analyzes it. We'll see how fast. It's doing one big prompt response back. So we'll see. There we go. So if we see here, we can see that it says, break it down. I entered 5 divided by 0, numerator, denominator, division by 0. Why is it an error, which is so cool. I could go into the math buddy itself. I could say, explain the order of operations. And this is now going to use real-time streaming in. The resolution's a little weird just because of the Mac. But now what it's going to do is use that same Apple Intelligence engine to go off and explain the order of operations for me. back and forth. So let's see, there we go. And it streams all in real time, which is super cool, which is awesome. Cool. All right, let me go ahead and wrap up here. Perfect. So the quick recap, if this pops up, and it did, perfect, is, oops. Oh, it didn't actually do it. Good, 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 cool. Is in general, talking about how the .NET MAUI team partners with AI. Think about these agents and skills that are built in or that you can add automatically. Give the CLI and DevFlow a look and check out Sherpa. The team is actively working on that. And then also, if you are integrating apps, AI into your apps, take a look at Essentials AI. It's in preview today, and the team will love feedback. As always, there's a survey session. I'll be around today at lunch for a lot of questions or anything like that. And as always, happy coding, and thank you so much. Thanks.